Hi, I'm Charles with AniCap. This is my recap for the anime Buchigiri. If you like my recaps, please consider subscribing. The story begins as some spineless and cowardly nerd named Ara practices talking to girls in a mirror. Elsewhere, some guys wake up in a shrine after a long night of drinking, but become terrified when something begins to shake. One of these losers thinks it might be the legend of what they call a honkai person being sealed there, but they don't stick around to find out when they hear a growling noise. A honkai person is defined as one who finds a heart that doesn't flee. In the age of samurai, fighters who threw away their sword and put down their helmet emerged. These fighters fought to reach the top with nothing but their honkai, so they are known as honkai people. Ara arrives at his first day at school, where he is told that the Minato Kai and Shiguma squad compete against each other for the top spot. This is clearly demonstrated outside as two students fight it out. It's clear that Ara couldn't be less interested in all the fighting, and he only wants to know if there are any cuties in his class. The instructor inappropriately assures him that there are, but Ara quickly finds out that his class is actually filled with some dangerous looking guys. Everyone in this dirty, messed up classroom is pretty disinterested in Ara when he introduces himself, but Ara is amazed to see that there is one girl that he likes. She is so perfect to him that he compares her to a gentle quail egg in the chaos of a bowl of stir fry. This girl quickly introduces herself as Maharu, and Ara instantly falls in love with her. Outside, the guy named Madakara beats up his opponent and wins the fight. When class finally ends, Maharu surprisingly asks Ara if he would like to walk home together. Our boy of course accepts without hesitation, so Maharu tells him that she will wait by the gate. Ara has prepared his entire life for this very moment, so he rushes off in the manliest way possible. Some green-headed dude trips him though, and his buddy joins in to intimidate Ara. Ara uses the oldest trick in the book to get away, but he quickly runs into the stone wall that is Madakara. The other bullies close in on him, so Ara realizes that he's about to get beat up. Just then, Madakara surprisingly already knows Ara's name, but Ara doesn't recognize him. Ara thinks real hard about his name, even though his stomach is beginning to hurt, and eventually remembers that they were close friends when they were younger. Ara seemed to be like an older brother to Madakara, and Madakara couldn't be happier to see him after 5 years. Madakara tells his goons that Ara is his old buddy, and they used to train together to become honkai people. He explains that Ara was always really strong, but the goons don't see it. Madakara wants him to hang out with them, but Ara doesn't seem to share the enthusiasm for meeting again, and leaves. Ara thinks that he has some seriously bad luck for seeing Madakara again. He rushes off to meet with his future wife, but unfortunately she is long gone. The dweebs from earlier eat at the restaurant Ara lives in, and he tells his nosy mom that he met a nice quail egg. Ara takes over the kitchen for a while, and overhears the guys talking about what might have been sealed in the shrine. At the Shiguma base, the guy that Madakara beat up apologizes to his squad's leader for losing. This guy explains that Madakara was surprisingly a nice guy, and the leader makes a joke about him falling in love. The leader quickly stops all the laughing with a kick to this guy's face, and this guy with a bunch of piercings just continues to enjoy his meal. At night, Ara thinks about his past with Madakara and how he once just watched his old friend get bullied. The next day, the poor teacher tries to teach this group of hoodlums, and Ara wonders where his crush is. At lunch, he prepares to eat his heartfelt meal and is shocked to find Maharu there. Maharu explains that she is skipping class, and Ara apologizes for not meeting with her the day before. She doesn't care at all and awkwardly asks if they could become friends. Of course, Ara jumps at the opportunity, and this really forward girl asks him to hang out on Saturday. Madakara calls out to him from below, and his green-headed buddy wonders if Ara is really that strong. Madakara explains that Ara is strong, brave, and cool, and he really admires him. This green dude is clearly jealous and doesn't understand at all. Goldilocks notices that Ara is talking to Maharu, so he determines that he needs to urgently tell Madakara about this, but Greenhead stops him. He thinks things would be more interesting this way, and they should just let their school's tradition play out. At some shop, Ara gets excited to have picked out the perfect stone to carve, but the bullies surprisingly arrive and take him to an arcade. Greenhead wants them to get along from now on, but Ara's stomach begins to hurt again. Broccoli Hair sees that trouble has arrived, so he gets his ponytailed friend out of there. Ara wins his game, but some dudes in white notice that Ara isn't part of the Minato or Shiguma gangs. Ara points out that he would never take part in stuff like that, but that proves to be the wrong answer. These guys can't believe that he would just walk in the arcade so comfortably without being part of a gang, and point out to him that this is their turf. Ara tries to get away, but the guys stop him as he is their 100th catch. Ara does manage to get away, albeit without most of his clothes, but the guys continue to chase him as they want to rob him of everything. His so-called new friends have a good laugh, and Greenhead realizes that he was right, and Ara isn't tough at all. With few places to run, Ara finds himself taking shelter inside the shrine. As the bullies try to break in, Ara knocks over one of the sealed boxes, and a mysterious gun pops out. The bullies eventually barge in, so Ara takes the gun to threaten them with. These guys laugh at the old broken down gun and approach him anyway. Ara fires the mysterious gun, but it ricochets all over the place, and the bullet just ends up hitting him in the head. The bullies think he is a goner, so they get out of there, but Ara eventually wakes up. The bullet seems to be lodged in his head, and a strange mist comes out of it. Just then, a small tornado forms, and a magical being called a Majin appears before Ara. This Majin's name is Senya, and he offers to grant Ara a wish. Ara is too terrified to even say a single word, so Senya quickly determines that he is some kind of wimp. Senya wonders if this is just another miss, but asks Ara again for his wish. Ara finally begins to understand what's happening, and Senya assumes that the boy will want wealth, honor, or power. Ara hardly needs any time to think about it, and instantly wishes to develop plot with the girl for the first time. Senya surprisingly understands why a young boy like him would wish for this, and offers to merge with Ara in order to make it happen. Ara leaves as he doesn't want to merge with anything, and quickly learns that no one else can see Senya. Back to the goons, they tell Madakara about Ara's pathetic display of his cowardice. Madakara knocks out a few pull-ups, while he explains that Ara's a gentle guy, and he hates fighting. Back at Ara's house, Senya complains about the stupid plot of some soap opera. Ara does some research and wonders if Senya could just be his imagination. Sometime later, Ara carves the stone he bought to make it into a gift for Maharo. Senya offers some advice on giving a better gift, but Ara explains that this stone will protect her for eternity. It's a love forever stone, and it will be the key to her heart, but Senya has no clue what this delusional kid is talking about. On Saturday, Ara tries to figure out why the bullet is still stuck in his head, but his caretaker doesn't seem to care about that at all, and just wants to know if he's going on a date. Ara gets real embarrassed, but this crazy lady just tells him to focus on getting as far as he can with the girl. As Ara waits for Maharo, he tells Senya not to talk to him, as his entire life is on the line. Maharo arrives and wonders who he was talking to, but Ara explains that he was just mumbling to himself. The two quietly enjoy some ice cream, but Senya reminds our boy to give her this stone thing. Ara strangely tells him to shut up, so he has to tell Maharo that it was nothing. Maharo somehow isn't put off by Ara's strange behavior, and is instead really glad that he came to the school. Senya thinks this is the perfect opportunity for our boy to make his move, since if he doesn't do it now, he never will. Senya demands that he not chicken out, so Ara proclaims that he will show Senya how it's done. Maharo hears some pretty strange noises coming from Ara, and it's because his stomach is going out of control. Ara tries to tell her it's nothing, even though he's clearly getting sick, and runs off to handle business. Once Ara finally finishes up, he reveals to Senya that this happens to him every single time. Ara shamefully returns to Maharo, but she is still somehow into Ara, and is just glad that he came back in time. Ara finally finds the courage to give her the stone he made, and she stares at how her name is carved poorly. Ara slowly declares how much he likes her, but he is interrupted by a gang. Their leader strolls up on some kind of machine, and he has such bad posture that he can't even see where he is going. He has his right-hand man to tell him when to stop, and he is so lazy that he must be kept from falling. This guy manages to talk all on his own though, and reveals that he is the leader of the Shiguma squad named Marito. Ara tries to get out of there with Maharo as quickly as possible, but Marito's vein pops out of his head. Maharo notices this and shockingly asks Ara to fight for her. Marito has gotten very serious however, and furious that Ara has dared to put his hands on his little sister. Up above, Greenhead has called Madakara to meet with him, and reveals that Ara is in big trouble. He wonders if Ara will make it out alive, and Madakara rushes off angrily to help his old friend. Down below, Ara takes a beating. Marito wants a fight, but Ara has already determined that his life will now end, as this guy is going to finish him. Marito continues to beat down on him, and demands that Ara get up. Something is seriously wrong with Maharo, as she admires her cool brother for losing his cool. Senya watches this beatdown, and listens as the gang points out that this will be Marito's 35th victim. Senya is disappointed to not have found what he was looking for once again. This is because even if he merged with Ara, he is certain that he would never be able to meet a certain person. Senya begins to leave, but is shocked when Ara wonders if everyone really thinks that he's just going to let his life end this way. Ara finally shows some determination to live, just as Marito is about to land a devastating blow. Senya becomes extremely excited and demands that Ara say what it is that he truly wishes for. Ara prepares to say what he wants, and we see that Madakara is rushing to him. Ara finally gets up and surprisingly still wishes that he developed plot with a girl for the first time. However, this time, Ara's body erupts with power, and Senya announces Buchigiri. Ara shockingly stops Marito's kick, and as he prepares a counterattack, it becomes clear that he has merged with Senya. Ara's bicep becomes so huge that it bursts from his shirt, and he lands a devastating punch on Marito. Ara absolutely destroys Marito just in time for Madakara to see, and Madakara thinks Ara looked just like a Honkai person. Ara has no clue what just happened, and the bargain basement genie is furious that Ara keeps wishing to develop plot. Ara was just being honest with his wish, but Senya points out that he's supposed to be wishing to get stronger. Their argument is broken up by Marito, who sends Ara flying into a lake. Madakara bumps into some guy named Jabashiri while rushing to Ara, and this Jabashiri guy acts like Madakara just became his worst enemy because of it. The crowd breaks up when they hear sirens, and Marito stares at the imprint on his stomach left behind by Ara's insanely powerful punch. This guy seems to be angry, but in reality he just proclaims that he's going to get Ara into the Shiguma gang. Afterwards, Ara wakes up from a nightmare, and Madakara praises him for the amazing punch he landed on Marito. Ara's brain eventually catches up with everything, and he just wants to know where Mahiro went. Madakara assumes she went home, and Ara determines that beating her brother must have been a bad idea. Broccolihead spots a Shiguma member spying on them from outside and chases after him. Madakara shows Ara the best friend stone Ara gave him a long time ago. Ara had told him that whenever he held it, it would make him stronger. Madakara doubts Ara still has his, but our boy isn't even listening. Madakara stops him from leaving and wonders if Ara started avoiding him because he wasn't strong enough. Ara says that it was so long ago that he doesn't even remember and just leaves. Senya appears wanting to fight everyone and tells Ara not to be sad since even though he lost today, he can still win tomorrow. Ara is quick to correct him by saying that he actually won against Marito, but Senya doesn't see it that way. Senya overhears some guys talking about a fight that's going on, and our fight-hungry genie drags Ara to go see it. They're too late when they arrive though, and Greenhead wonders what Ara's doing there. This dude accidentally touches the bullet lodged in Ara's head, and he's shocked by Senya. At home, Ara thinks about how in that one split second, he felt a ton of power surge through his body. It was like he was an entirely different person, and he wonders what Senya even is. Senya explains that he is a true Honkai person, or at the very least, the closest a man can get. The unimpressed Ara points out that Honkai people are just legends, even though there's a literal genie talking to him right now. And Senya points out that once they merged, Ara was able to throw a massive punch. However, he could only manage to throw one punch because they were only partially merged. Senya notices a mark on Ara's back, but doesn't say anything about it. Instead, he just informs Ara that he won't get any stronger unless they are one in body and soul. Senya wants them to be practically joined at the hip, but just the thought of that makes Ara want to puke. Senya points out the need for a man to merge, and our boy Ara knows that feeling all too well. At the Shiguma base, the guy named Jabashiri arrives to speak with their leader Marito. The first year student is told that he's way out of his league, but Marito wants to hear what the kid has to say. Jabashiri snacks on a meatball sub offered up by Marito, and explains that the pink-haired guy named Tat followed Madakara after the fight. Madakara is from the Minato gang, and he took Ara into his home. Jabashiri doesn't think they should recruit somebody like Ara, who seems to be involved with someone from Minato, but this just makes Marito consider recruiting Madakara as well. Jabashiri gets so angry that he bashes his head into a wall, and he reminds Marito that he will be his only successor. On his way to school, Ara finds that everyone is stunned to see that he was the one that punched Marito. Senya is impressed with how popular Ara is now, but Ara couldn't care less about being popular with all the guys, since it doesn't do anything to get him closer to developing plot. Senya wants to fight anyone for just looking at Ara funny, but Ara yells at him. This startles the crowd, who seems terrified of him, and Marito appears out of nowhere. Elsewhere, Greenhead tells Madakara that he should avoid Ara from now on, since he seems to have some kind of monkey on his back. Madakara actually reveals that he's planning to ask Ara to join Minato Kai, but his boys don't think their leader would ever allow that. Madakara reveals that Ken already wants to meet with Ara, and Zabu can't understand what Madakara sees in that kid. Madakara thinks that Ara's fist looked just like a Honkai person's, but Zabu just wonders why his friend takes the old fairy tale so seriously. Later at school, Marito rides up on his llama to ask Madakara if he knows where Ara is, and he reveals that he plans to recruit Ara to Shiguma. In class, Ara yells at Senya for annoying him as always, and must apologize to everyone who surely must think he is crazy by now. It's clear that Ara still has a crush on Maharo, but Senya reminds this simp that she had her brother beat him up. Ara's head is really in the clouds as he corrects Senya and explains that Marito was just testing his sister's new boyfriend. Senya is quick to point out that Ara started to run away at the first sight of Marito, but Ara explains that his legs just moved on their own. Just then, Marito's voice calls out to Ara, and Ara's legs move on their own again to get Ara out of there. Elsewhere, Maharo tells her brother that she wants to be with him always. She wonders if he is even listening, but we see that this psychotic girl is actually just talking to a bear version of Marito. Ara arrives, pretending like seeing her there was a complete coincidence, and he apologizes for what happened the day before. Even though Ara just ran from Marito, he tells Maharo that he wants to face off against her brother one more time to earn his respect. Ara thinks this will impress her, but Maharo shockingly explains that if he hurts her brother again, then she will end his life. Maharo tells him to take back the rock he gave her, but he explains that it's a love forever stone. She doesn't care though and just drops it. It shatters into a million pieces, and this jerk acts like it was an accident. Afterwards, Maharo asks her brother to walk home with her, but he's having a fight dream against Ara, and he punches his sister right in the face. This chick seriously has some screws loose in her brain, as she blames Ara for this. At home, Ara depressingly pieces together his sad-looking love forever stone. Senya tries to cheer him up, but the kid is hopeless. The next day, Madakara invites Ara to join Minato Kai. He explains how impressed he was with his punch on Marito, but he's interrupted by Jabashiri. Zabu is furious to see the pink-haired dude, but Jabashiri uses his favorite weapon to attack him. Ara wishes this whole thing would just blow over, but that doesn't seem to be the case as Madakara goes to confront Jabashiri. Jabashiri has business with Ara, but Madakara states that he will have to go through him first. This actually works out perfectly for Jabashiri though, as he explains that he has been waiting to slaughter Madakara for some time now. The two step outside, giving Ara immense relief, but Jabashiri tells him that he will be back for him. Outside, the two prepare to fight, and everyone cheers for battle. Senya tries to drag Ara to go watch, but he doesn't want to get mixed up in all that. Senya questions our boy's manhood, and he wonders if he's really just planning to leave his friend behind. This comment seems to affect Ara in more ways than one, as his stomach gargles and he must rush off to take care of business. The fight finally begins, and Madakara is amazed by Jabashiri's flexibility as he dodges all of his kicks. Just when Madakara thinks he will finally land one, Jabashiri simply dodges again. The crowd is extremely entertained, but Senya is left frustrated as he has to wait for our boy. The fight continues as both guys seem evenly matched. Madakara clearly leans heavily on his kicks to attack, but Jabashiri more than holds his own. Madakara gets excited when he finally manages to land a kick right on the back of Jabashiri's head, but Jabashiri just uses the opportunity to knock Madakara down. Madakara just manages to stop him from landing a devastating blow, but Jabashiri prepares to use his trusty headbutt to end the fight. Madakara doesn't even try to avoid it and decides to literally take it head on with a headbutt of his own. Their two heads collide, and the crowd goes silent in anticipation of what will happen next. The invisible Senya drags Ara to the fight just in time to see that Madakara had the more powerful headbutt. Jabashiri's out cold, and the crowd erupts with cheers. Senya is furious to have missed what seems to have been an awesome fight, and Ara just wonders what's wrong with Madakara. Madakara isn't moving an inch, and we see that it's because he's unconscious. When Madakara wakes up, he points out that Jabashiri's head is as hard as a rock. Ara compliments his old friend by saying that he didn't do so bad, but Madakara points out that it was nothing compared to Ara landing a punch on Marito. Before Ara can leave, Madakara asks him one more time to join Minato Kai. Madakara explains that he has gotten stronger, so he really thinks that they have a real shot at becoming Honkai people together now. Ara remains silent, and Senya is shocked that these two kids were actually training to become Honkai people. Ara makes his decision and reminds Madakara that he is done with all that stuff. Madakara makes one last effort to convince Ara to meet with their leader Ken, and explains that Ken is taking on Marito for the top spot. This proves to be the key to motivating our boy Ara, as he is intrigued by Ken wanting to fight Maharu's brother. Ara goes to meet with Ken, and Senya is glad to learn that Ara wants dreamt of becoming a Honkai person and taking the top spot. Madakara reveals that Ken was held back 3 times, so he is a bit older than them, and Ara is shocked to hear that he is 21 years old. The giant Ken finally arrives, and Ara thinks about how he is like an old man. This guy has an intense presence, and Senya is amazed by how strong he seems. Madakara begins formally introducing Ara to Ken, but Ara just gets right to the point, and he tells Ken that he wants to go 1 round with him. Senya couldn't be happier to see this side of Ara, and Ara thinks about his thought process. If he can beat an old guy who's on the same level as Maharu's brother, then he won't have to hurt her brother to show her how strong he is. Ara gives himself a good pat on the back as he's some kind of simp genius. Everyone prepares to watch Ara fight Ken, but they all think the kid is just crazy. Madakara pleads with Ken not to do this, but it's too late. Ara tells Senya that it's time, and Senya is just glad that Ara has finally discovered his true wish. Senya assumes that he finally wants to wish for more power, but Ara once again wishes to develop some plot for the first time. Immense power flows through his body once again, and Senya proclaims Bujigiri. Ara's arm grows twice the size again, tearing his sleeve to pieces, and he lands an immense punch that sends Ken flying. Everyone is of course stunned, and Madakara realizes that Ara really is the one. Our boy Ara strikes a victory pose, but Senya's just upset that all Ara thinks about is developing plot. Ara doesn't think there's anything more important, but Senya points out that getting stronger is. Ara looks like a lunatic as he fights with the invisible Senya, and the furious Ken sends him flying through the ceiling. Ara looks like he might not be alive anymore, and Ken just stares at the huge indentation that Ara's punch left behind. The other Minato Kai members blame Madakara for bringing trouble, and they become terrified when it seems like Ken is becoming enraged. It turns out that he is actually laughing, and Ken writes that he couldn't be happier. At school, Ara's still feeling the repercussions of the fight, but Senya just wants to go another round with that guy. Ara gets real cocky after winning 2 fights in a row, and points out how it's like he has no limits. Senya quickly brings him back to reality though, as he points out that he technically lost again. Just then, Marito's voice can be heard approaching. In typical Ara fashion, he prepares to jump out the window again, but Marito is 1 step ahead, as he comes crashing through said window. Marito has finally caught him, and he asks Ara to join their team. Ara tries to explain that he would only be a burden if he joined, and he would respectfully like to decline. However, his simp brain takes over, as Maharu signals that she would love for him to join. She speaks to Ara's simp heart without a single word, and he agrees to join Shiguma. Just then, Madakara arrives. He's excited to reveal that Ken has agreed to let Ara join Minato Kai, but he is of course shocked to see him talking to Marito. Marito tells him that he's too late, and Ara has already chosen to join Shiguma. Thanks for watching my recap. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Also, sign up to my free newsletter if you want to show some support to the channel. Link is in the description.